public safety and safeguarding our communities. The Stormwater Department must be funded at a level that allows it to adequately maintain and modernize our infrastructure so that it can withstand the increasingly severe storms we're facing. One way that I welcome to achieve all these goals is by implementing the many recommendations that the city auditor has proposed to this administration. I also support the recommendations to strengthen oversight and accountability through investment in the city auditor's office, the ethics commission, the city clerk's office, and the Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement. Residents expect transparency and an effective government, and these functions are essential to maintaining public confidence in the city. I believe the motion on the floor, as crafted by my colleague, reflects many of the values this council has consistently expressed. Investing in core city services, protecting...
Join us through the entire Mayor and your team, of course, for being at these meetings and listening the whole time. And thank you to our budget chair for as much the motion in front of us does in terms of meeting the priorities that serve District 7 residents. Office of Child and Youth Success was something I obviously championed in 2021 and happy to see that refunded in this measure. Single year, undeniably, and of course in the city, and I can attest with my own eyes that there are low-income and working class families in every single neighborhood in my district who rely on those services, and absolutely me, but all 9 city council members. And last but not least, we are today, I do have to appreciate that we're seeing graffiti unit supervisor and the sex registration unit supervisor placed back in. That is undeniably important. What I see through the rest of the motion definitely has my support. I do appreciate that the West Valley River crossing, something that I pushed for before while sitting in the Sandak boardroom and sitting with San Diego River Park Foundation, trying to get that connected. It's not always Dr. Stephen Gelb who comes in to advocate for that with me, but many, many people. As I see this entire motion before us, I'm deeply, deeply appreciative, but there is a $2 million problem. The idea of license plate readers being directly pitted against children and youth and families is a false choice, as false as any choices we've seen in this entire debate. And of course, it's deliberate. It forces us to ignore this has to be done. And ALPRs collect some of that evidence. But ending the use of ALPRs is that some tool is going to stop all crime. Well, then that's a measure that will never be met. No tool will ever be perfect. I don't think anyone on this dais ever promised that either. And personally, I resent the idea of placing children and families directly against this technology. Because I've had families who've had their children and their fathers, their aunts and uncles, the perpetrators who murdered them, beat them to death, and Linda Vista, they were caught with this. Multiple times. We're starting to see it on a weekly basis. Those families aren't faceless people. The domestic violence survivors, they get who's done something heinous. And the difference between a guilty conviction and that person walking free is an ALPR. Who here stands with that criminal?
It takes 36 minutes to respond to a domestic violence call. 36 minutes.
I don't think anybody in this room...
One more outburst and they'll ask to be escorted. You know the rules. Let them talk. We let everybody else talk, whether you agree with them or not.
Now here's the difference. I don't think anybody in here who's trying to get rid of ALPRs stands with that criminal. I'm not going to take the debate in that direction. I know you want people to have justice, fairness, on both hands. You're human. I'm human. All these council members up here are human. We're trying to make human decisions. Missing children, that's human. Knowing this is the world they're inheriting. I know that world where they're going to walk and be viewed suspiciously by virtue of their last name. That fear's real. But here's a question I come back to every day. What's the impact of the decision today and tomorrow? Ending the ALPR contract doesn't alleviate everyone's fear. For many people, it actually increases it. Tomorrow, the city would lose the public safety tool that saves lives each and every day. And with so many others that saves lives each and every day, and with so many other cities around us using that technology, you can laugh.
Okay, everybody's ability to talk. Put your thumbs up, put your thumbs down. It's never about content, it's about
We're no longer part of. That's not a trade-off I'm willing to make. That's not a trade-off that the vast majority of our constituents are asking for. Councilmember Foster, I appreciate the details you have in here, but there's a $2 million problem. One that I think sacrifices significant public safety, evidence collection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campio. Go next to Councilmember Von Wilbur.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Charles, and your entire IVA team for all the incredible has found that an overwhelming proportion of these violations go unreported because they are vulnerable workers. I'm talking about low-wage earners, immigrant populations who are taken advantage all the time by employers, service sector workers, anyone paid hourly. Very glad to see the city. I'm glad we're taking it over to the city attorney's office because that can be a self-recovering funding position. The more fines and fees you get from criminal employers, settlement funds as they are intended to be used, which is combating the addiction crisis in our streets and our homes. Historically been kicked in the restraining order clinics, and I know how important it is to have that back rent so you can pay it and make sure the landlord does not evict you. So thank you for being here. For the fire department, I do have a question for Chief Logan. Considering we just had a fire yesterday in Serena Valley. One, thank you for your quick work on that, but I just want to ask again and make sure that we are fully funded for our aerial operations to protect the city from fires this coming year.
Yes, we are.
What? Thank you. Fantastic. Also, I really want to make sure that we have strong, qualified women in our fire department. The city has done pay equity studies to show that women can be paid less, unfortunately, as city employees. And one of the hardest glass ceilings to crack has been the fire department. And so I was very sad to see that the Women's Fire Prep Academy was not restored this year, but I do conversation on public safety. I believe we need both. We need our parks and recs and live stabbing in a community park in Sabre Springs. And none of the families who used that community park wanted to go back there until the suspect who murdered somebody was arrested. From one part of public safety or to fund the other. We can have both. And we led the vote to sue ICE, take them to court. And we led the vote to sue ICE, take them to court alongside our sister city in Minneapolis to prevent them from coming into our community. And we've led the fight to make sure that our systems are locked down. San Diego is the only one in the state that I know of that doesn't share automated license plate reader data with other cities. We don't don't trust other cities, even though that's lawful under SB 54. So I want a commitment, again, from our police department that we are not cooperating in immigration enforcement. There will be consequences for any officer who violates California state law.
Good evening, council. Member, absolutely we are committed to. Good evening, council. Member, absolutely we are committed to one, abiding by state law, and also being transparent about the law, and also being transparent about the way that we use
This issue so many times. I mean, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community. A gunman who is shooting pellets at people just sitting in bars. So this is making us safer. But at the same time, movement, I remember across the country, but just he pulled her back into the car, taking to her house, and the only reason we caught this guy is because his license plate triggered on ALPR. She's a victim. Why aren't we going to support her abuser being caught? I don't understand this. There was a woman who lost her life this weekend when her abuser came from Arizona and shot her in the head while she was pregnant. Like, these are the people that I care about when we talk about this. So,
I'm going to be particularly brief, as some of you, especially those that have already left, extraordinary piece of work, listening to the public, listening to your colleagues during the budget conversations. Again, thank you to the IBA. I also want to thank council and the partnership with the Travis Foundation as well as the county. Again, I want to thank Councilmember Whitburn for the work on the settlement agreement, which removed a very dark cloud that would have hung over us in the budget conversation going forward. Real quickly, I can still remember my attempt last year to get a little extra money into stormwater and failed. So to see in excess of 1.3 million being proposed is rather an extraordinary change, and I really applaud my colleagues for that. So at the end of the day, there's really only one question I think is everybody's mind, and so I'm not the storyteller, I'm just going to cut to the chase. Council President Pro Tem Lee, your logic is exactly the same process I got to on the pivot. For you, it was a matter of the budget, if I understood correctly, with the concerns and the places that we were. I don't think there is one incident that justifies the LPR. I don't think there's one incident that justifies eliminating the LPR. A person that I respect who made an important point, I'm not going to disrespect by using her name with my comment, gave me my work plan for the rest of the year. There is work to be done. We are not done with ALPR and the ubiquity contract. I look forward to conversations with that. So while I love so much of what is in this motion, I will be voting no. So with that, I see nobody else on the lights. We do have a motion by Councilmember Foster. We have a second by Council President Pro Tem Lee. We are voting on the handout here in front of the council members going forward. So please call the roll.
Yes. Being clear. This was not a pit one against the other. This is what I identified in the budget as a want. And I think if we are the difference between a want and a need. And I can appreciate certain individuals who think the camera or license plate reader makes them safe. But truly what makes people safe is community. Talk about the tale of two cities. Whenever I sit in this seat every day,
I feel the latter. We are only, I think it even tells in the conversation as we talk about how we handle supplements. Some of the most difficult in my lifetime. I will leave that there, Council President, for now. And I do have an alternate motion to present. And I will ask the city attorney, as I go through this, let me know if there are certain things that need to be said that I have not said. Because some of it is repetitive from the last item. With that, you should have, do you have a slide deck? President, I would like to enter as I did with the following modifications to table 1 is the same. With the following modifications to table 1 is the same. That's the multimodal team. Item 4. Business security, just 220. We also have the stormwater wetland. We are $841,000. For stormwater clearing, we are including a one-time expenditure of $1,093 in 2027. We are including expansion of lifeguard wellness program. That's an ongoing expense of $173,285. And the contribution to general fund stability rate. Following locations: North Park location, the Mira Mesa locations, North Park location, the Mira Mesa location, and the Linda Vista location. For the following recreation center restorations, the following locations: Carmel Valley, Pacific Highlands Ranch, Robb Athletic Field, Canyonside, Doyle, Mira Mesa, Hourglass Field, Noble Athletic Fields, and Stanley. To effectuate action 7 and 8, allocate the additional resources, again, the additional property management cost savings in an amount of $200,000. Item number 10 is the same, appropriate $750,000 from Mission Valley Urban Impact Fee Fund to a new capital improvement project for the West Valley River crossing. And item number 11, allocate the remaining $2.6 million from the Neighborhood Enhancement Fee Fund to the Affordable Housing Preservation Fund to be managed by the San Diego Housing Commission. And with that, Council President, that concludes the second motion.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We'll go now to Council President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to Chair Foster, Budget Chair Foster, for expressing his thoughts on this as well. And Council President, I appreciate that we are a council where we understand that we have different perspectives, and we may actually think on is make those choices. We had every opportunity to restore every hour for libraries, rec centers, much more. We are in a slightly different position. I do support this motion mentioned, especially on the stormwater channel, and appreciate the public for being along for the ride.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Foster and a second by Council President Pro Tem Lee. On the second motion, we'll go next to Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. I am supportive of the motion on the floor. Add an amendment to the motion. I'd like to include the fuel and fleet savings from the police department at $370 resource, and also to restore the graffiti unit supervisor at $196,450 and sex registration unit supervisor at $197,891.
You accepting that amendment, Councilmember Poplar?
Can we? You said 307? It's 375.
Let's put 375 just to be.
Can you put that?
The identified cost of those two positions came to around $396 million. With the motion that you put forward, there was roughly $26,000 unallocated, so the 370 plus. Provided you want to take that course.
Seconder of the motion?
I'll take it.
Okay. Right.
Thank you.
The motion has been amended as shown on the screen. That concludes your comments.
That concludes my comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. So we'll go next to Councilmember Hilo Rivera.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Chair Foster, for this thoughtful alternative. Thank you for your comments, because I do think that part that you named is important to name. And it plays itself out in really important ways in our community. When we tell people we care about them, and they matter to us, but we don't actually act upon the things that they are asking us to do in a very, very tragic way a few weeks ago. Where the city that should have been able to offer comfort, support, and love wasn't seen as a trusted source of those things, because requests have continuously fallen on deaf ears. So I'm not going to question motive or intent behind the words of support that are offered from the dais. What I'm going to offer is caution that if we use those words and do not back it up with action, when tough moments come, we're going to be told to go away, not thank you for being here. And that is fair, because that's how every relationship works. And Council President Pro Tem, I appreciate you saying what you said. Today is choice day. It is council decision day. We make choices. So if the choices being presented are not acceptable, then we need to see alternatives. But absent an alternative, we're just continuing to play the same game over and over of poking holes at potential solutions and perpetuating this idea that we're just, one middle manager away from balancing the whole city. We're 2 decades in plus of underfunding the city, of letting conservative radicals tell us that smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller is better, with the goal of pulling them down that path. But at a certain point, we're either going to open again. The stormwater funding is incredibly important. And make no mistake, if the whole budget isn't as good as it should be, this motion isn't as good as the last one. And I support this one because it's a better direction.
Was mentioned something about fuel. It's the first time I've heard that.
I was going to jump in and actually try and provide some clarification on
Please,
exactly that.
yeah, please.
One, take away from this conversation. Two, I want it to be $70,000 in savings of fleet fuel costs associated with the police department. I assume it's coming from the suggestion to move to 2 officer patrol units. Please correct me if that's not the case.
Savings, where it comes from. Yes, and instead of doing it in further conversations, instead of taking it to where it was the entire fleet, it was cut to a lower number to allow the police department to determine how they will work within these components.
Appreciate that, Councilmember. I was going to note two things. One, that the amount that is in this motion is less than the $757 that was initially there. Presumably that means that there is some opportunity for the police. Presumably that means that there is some opportunity for the police chief in the department to choose where or which units would go to 2 officers. Choose where or which units would go to 2 officers. But just wanted to highlight that.
And added, it wasn't in the previous motion. So, is police chief come and talk about this, or?
On meet and confer issues, I might defer to the city attorney's office.
Okay, sure.
Yes, this type of change would need to go through the meet and confer process. I would also like to add that although the charter gives the council the authority to adopt the budget and make cuts, the charter also gives the police chief the power and authority to operate and control the police department, subject to applicable rules. So those are all things that the council should factor into their discussions.
So for clarification, is the $375,000 included in the current motion or not?
Yes, Senator said yes, so it is part of the motion now.
Okay, and then that decision is then up to the police department after the meet and confer.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, and appreciate that clarification. I was on the lights because I wanted to say a few words about our budget, that it is our responsibility to balance the budget, unlike last year, and to ensure that we make thoughtful decisions that maintain essential services. We need to deliver core services with fiscal discipline. We need public safety. It is the city's primary responsibility to our citizens. Our budget decisions should continue to support the personnel and resources necessary to maintain our police, fire, rescue, and lifeguards. I support keeping smart street lights and license plates readers through this particular contract until it is over, and then hopefully we can find a better provider. At the time this contract was made, there was only one provider that provided both, and that's why it was a single source. 80 stolen vehicles contributed to 20% reduction in auto theft in our city in just the past year, and at a time when our police department continues to San Diegans. We should continue also supporting our arts and culture community as we have done. These in tourism and economic activity. The arts feeds our souls, but also provides revenue for our city. The restoration of the stormwater clearance measures is very important. It was requested by our fire chief, and it is most welcome, especially given the climate changes that indicate we may have to face huge rainstorms in this coming year. And so therefore, I want to thank you for this second motion and amendments, and I will vote in favor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Campbell. We'll go back to Councilmember Castillo.
Thank you, Council President. Just an issue of housekeeping. I saw the revise on page 12. There's still $2.4 million in expenses associated with the 72-bed shelter, bed expansion at Veteran Village, San Diego. Last we heard from the Housing Commission, Veterans Village of San Diego is no longer the site where we're looking to spend that opioid settlement money.
The San Diego Housing Commission, who I believe is there with you today, did release an RFSQ for opportunities for folks to provide. Then it would not be considered at this time.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. Want to it was as a majority item. I know that that's unlikely to be as a majority item. I know that that's unlikely to be accepted today. The last thing I wanted to point out, because we're at the end of this item, something that everything we talked about today is really downstream at the end of the process. We haven't taken too much time to talk about the upstream issues, especially since there is a structural budget deficit that is persisting. And that's because the way the problem is actually presented to us through the budget cycle, it's actually focusing on the thing right in front of us instead of something that hasn't been dealt with for many years. Where we agree public services, and those jobs do new things that the public expects. It grew over the last several decades, not because we didn't want to do better or achieve more, it's because we didn't actually fix the systemic problem, which is job descriptions and duties did not evolve, and thus the jobs did not evolve. And that hurts all of our workers, whether they're supervisors or they're unionized members, super skill. That's a very detailed and descriptive way of saying that our constituents feel this one question every working under, because our employees have very high workloads, limited to very, very hard every single day, but 6. And within the supervisor rank specifically, we have very skilled employees. Program coordinators, program managers, they were often unionized workers who we want the reason modernization. We need to have our personnel department and civil service commission truly analyze job roles and job duties in the city so that the council and the mayor's office and our REOs, our city unions, can together pinpoint be adjusted, maximizing productivity and accountability, and when it's done right, city employees will be able to do the thing they do best, in which they do what they love to do, which is serve the public. I think we'll have that discussion.
I second what Councilor Campillo says about modernizing our personnel department and getting technology in the city we can actually utilize. Please. No, I'm so sorry, the one that Councilor Moreno made? Number 12, okay. So, I'm going to get a little bad. Oh, so I am very supportive of including the graffiti unit supervisor and the sex registration unit supervisor back into the budget. My question is just that the 2 police officers per car, how that's going to be deployed, because in my district we only have 4 cars that go out sometimes. Actually, for Vine and Kent. All the way from Mira Mesa, all up to San Pasqual, we have 4 cars out of the territory. So if you put 2, that's one entire 12-hour shift where there's only 1 car for Kent's district and 1 car for my district. So I just district in the city. So I just want to make sure with the chiefs that that's not going to happen up in our area. It's just not possible. I do understand some officers might want to ride in pairs, and that's fine. They can cut down on distractions, and that's fine. But it should be flexible, and it should be based on voluntary choices, not mandated for areas like ours.
I don't know. We'll do our best to try to make it work. But if it was an idea that I thought was a good one, I would have perspective that this could impact response times negatively. To make sure that we have the proper amount of cars in the field. We'll do our best.
Do better.
Okay. Well, I know this will have to go to meet and confer, but I do want to, and obviously the police department. But that would be a significant hindrance to answering 911 calls up in our district if we only had 2 cars going out on second watch.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Baumel. Thank you, Council President. Well, that just increased response times, some of the other concerns expressed by restoration of the 2 supervisors. I personally, given what we just heard from the chief, would probably prefer to fund that from $375,000 out of an excess equity. rather than from the fuel and fleet savings. I will make that as an amendment. We'll see if anybody else on the council wants to do that. Aside from that one concern there, I will say this is a reasonable budget that reduces the deficit and maintains key services. I was determined to prevent a closure of shelters that would force homeless people back out onto the streets. This budget ensures that that won't happen. Unfortunately, this budget does not provide additional shelter beds that could help more people off the streets, but at least we're not going backwards. It is good that we are restoring significant funding for the arts, and to be clear, we're really restoring funding for people. Youth who will be inspired by the arts, communities who attend free performances that they otherwise couldn't afford, workers who are employed by the arts, and all of us who benefit from the revenue that is generated by visitor spending. The restoration of the special events filming program manager is good for our city. This program and position helps to attract and coordinate movies being filmed in our city and commercials being filmed in our city. That is great exposure for San Diego. There's a film shoot tomorrow. A sponsor of the NASCAR races is shooting a promotional commercial tomorrow with San Diego's downtown skyline in the background. This budget restores library and rec center hours and restores the small business enhancement program. There's funding for the multimodal team and the West Valley River crossing. Many of the things that were restored in this budget were restored because residents engaged in this budget process and in this process. I do want to thank Budget Chair Foster and his team for the many hours that they had as the independent budget analyst. Their analysis has been invaluable, and the many public hearings that they have participated in have helped to engage city residents in this process. I appreciate the, at times, an edgy process, but a productive one. Thank you to the mayor's office for engaging the council early in the process. I think that was very helpful, and to all of our city departments, their legal analysis. And last but not least, thank you to my staff. Every member of my team has helped out either through policy analysis,
leadership. I think we still have a long way to go to really figure out how to dig deep on budget. The budget is so big and so complex, and there's so many buckets of expenditures and funding that it makes it a challenge. I appreciate Councilmember Foster's work on zero-based budgeting on contracting. I'll be curious to see how that manifests itself going forward. That introducing something so new and so novel and that would have been a fundamental policy call was not appropriate for this budget conversation in this. And the department may introduce this to the individual rec council. Restoring hours, funding programs, funding repairs, but that is a choice they can make on a recreation center by recreation center. But we may have another option on the table. As Charles would remind us, that probably does qualify as a one-time option, not a ongoing option. Going forward, we'll see if and when that goes. While I'm not a big fan of funding individual positions, I do respect Councilmember Moreno's introduction of those two positions and the thoughtfulness in listening to comments to only propose half the dollar amount so that it can be more strategic about when and where the folks in the northern part of my district would also have the same concerns. But I also realize I'm not going to tell you how to do your business. I'm not authorized to negotiate contracts, but that seems like a real time-saving opportunity. Anybody else in the lights? We do have an updated motion put forward by Councilmember Foster and seconded by Councilmember Moreno. So unless there's any other questions or comments, and I don't see any, please call the roll.
Outside of the voting system, please cast your vote.
No, I'm No, I'm just gonna.
Marty pointed down the all right. Again, when you're ready. Again, when you're ready.
The City of San Diego's Affordable Housing Fund is composed of two permanent, annually renewable funding sources. First, the Housing Trust Fund, which was established in 1990. It consists of revenue from housing impact fees on commercial development and loan repayments. Second, the Inclusionary Housing Fund, which was established in 2003. It consists of revenue from the collection of fees on residential development and from loan repayments. The developers have the option to either build affordable housing units or pay the fees that will be used in the creation and preservation of affordable housing. On the slide here displays the history of fee collection for both the Housing Trust Fund, which helped. Since inception, the Affordable Housing Fund has assisted with the creation and preservation of over 10,100 affordable housing units, assisting more than 31,000 San Diegans experiencing homelessness, and assisted over 410 households to become first-time homebuyers. I will now pass it on to Matt, who will share.
Thanks, Crystal. Good evening. Sorry, good afternoon, everyone. Funds may be allocated to programs identified in the list of model programs. For fiscal year 2027, we propose allocating funds to rental housing finance, homelessness activities, and loans to create accessory dwelling units that were committed in prior years. As part of the plan preparation, we continue to solicit feedback through outreach efforts. We made presentations to the University, Mission Beach, and Choice Valley community planning groups. A video of our presentation about the Affordable Housing Fund annual plan, including closed captioning, was also made available on our website and SDHC's public engagement portal known as Public Input. To increase awareness of the annual plan and the comment period, we also emailed households who previously participated in a survey for the study about residential evictions in the City of San Diego and posted on SDHC's social media accounts. Members of the public were invited to provide comments on how they thought we should best use the Affordable Housing Fund funds. The comments we received are attached to the proposed annual plan. With that in mind, let's take a look at the proposed allocation. Here you can see the fiscal year 2027 proposed funding allocation to the various programs, as compared to the fiscal year 2026 allocation. As a reminder, the Affordable Housing Fund is only one of the only Affordable Housing Fund and the anticipated outcomes associated with the fund to be administered. And $5.4 billion. These are funds that were awarded in finalising their funding stack. In fiscal year 2027, we're also allocating $9 million towards a new no fund. Additional funding sources, besides the Affordable Housing Fund, of course, will make a total of $22 million available for the fiscal year 2027 no fund. We also propose allocating $5.8 million towards homelessness programs that include landlord capacity building, program administration, the total affordable housing, and shown on this slide. That concludes the presentation. We're available to answer questions.
All right, thank you very much for the work and for the presentation. Clerk, please proceed.
Council President, we have Joyce Anata, Rashke, as well as Max Schmidt and allegedly Audra.
Excuse me just a minute. Okay, spending program. Now, on the approval end of it, where the funds were stated to be around 39 million, and then 22 million of that had been approved in prior years. Of that had been approved in prior years. Now, I know some of those projects can take forever. Market demand.
Thank you for that concluding comment.
Market demand.
Thank you for that concluding comment. Natalie Rashke, are you here? Natalie Rashke? Max Schmidt?
Hi, I just wanted to say, I'm against the proposed fiscal. The reason why is because it is a ridiculous plan, and I just want to take a moment to shine light on what's happening. Not all Freemasons are evil, and a lot of the young Freemasons actually support me fighting the world. So I just want to make that point clear. I want to say I am fighting for a libertarian revolution that does fight for 0% tax, no taxes at all. And I just want to say I am for and I'm out here exposing them. And I just want to say that I'm very excited that people are even giving me feedback of how I stood up today.
I'm just wondering when you guys are going to treat the homeless like people and not a number. I feel like, is any of this stuff really working? I mean, you guys do these nice presentations. You talk about, tens of millions of dollars in some of it. Where'd it go? You know what I mean? Like, the problem doesn't get better. It literally continues to get worse. And it's like, if that is what's happening, shouldn't it be time to course correct and actually, really think about these people? Like, what would you... Is your
says, oh no, contact housing authority. Contact housing authority. I don't know what is happening. Well, I do know what's happening. But we need to pull our heads out of the sand as a society.
There's going to those participating online. We have two speakers, Kathleen